The first season of 1923 has wrapped, so we wanted to follow up on our preseason video and give our thoughts on the Yellowstone spinoff. But let's start with a quick recap. While we warn you that there's obviously spoilers on the horizon, please take a second and like the video if you would. Now, on with the show. Things are tough to start off with in Montana in 1923. Historic drought has led to large cattle die-offs, reckless sheep herders are exacerbating the problem, and the Duttons are struggling to hold on to their land, per usual. But luckily, the Spanish flu wiped out a lot of mouths to feed, so that was good. Ser Bronn, aka Banner Creighton, has his eyes set on the Yellowstone ranch, and after a few run-ins with Chief Dutton in charge, Jacob Dutton, Banner and his men end up killing Jacob's nephew and wounding his grandnephew, his fiancé, and Jacob himself. With just a few Duttons left on this earth, it's up to them to fight with everything they have left to hang on to what's theirs. And matters get even more complicated when James freaking Bond, aka mining mogul Donald Whitfield, allies with Banner to help him take the Yellowstone. So does this sound like something you'd like? More American Dutton badassery during a time of societal and technological advancement that threatens the Duttons' way of life as they protect their Montana ranch from external threats? Well, you're shit out of luck, because more than half of the show actually follows this other Dutton, Spencer Dutton, and his adventure through Africa and the ocean. And there's another side story about a Native American girl who leaves her school, which is basically a prison, and the warrior priests that try and hunt her down. I will say that her side story is somewhat watchable at the beginning, because it's basically 2 episodes of her finding different ways to beat this one specific nun senseless, so there's a fair bit of comedic relief there. Also, I have no idea if this has been said anywhere, but I'm calling it that this native chick is Monica's ancestor. But back to Spencer. He's a grizzled, emotionally damaged World War I vet who's working in Africa as a hunter. After this British gal admires how he can throw down 9 whiskeys in one sitting, she falls head over heels for him because it's a Yellowstone Dutton story. The Duttons are perfect badasses who everyone admires and who always end up with a blonde girl. Anyway, she bails on her fiancé to run off with this alcoholic, and they spend the next 2 episodes just lunging at each other and making out and boning. No exaggeration, in an episode and a half, they do this 6 times. It gets to a point where she's like, "That was nice, but you haven't plowed me over here yet," so they move over 15 feet and do it again. If that isn't a sign that Taylor Sheridan is phoning in his writing at this point, then I don't know what is. Spencer eventually learns that his family is getting killed off and he needs to return home, so he and his plow buddy / wife Alex embark for Montana, starting off on a tugboat. Well, that tugboat sinks in short order, and they get rescued by a French vessel and eventually end up on a British vessel that just so happens to be carrying Alex's ex-fiancé and his dad, who just so happens to be the Earl or Duke of some worthless British swampland. Naturally, Spencer and her ex end up dueling, and Spencer tosses him off the ship and he gets imprisoned. He's eventually removed from the ship, and he and Alex are separated, but she vows to find him in Montana. And that's pretty much all the important stuff that happens. So there's a lot going on here. Now, the first thing that stands out is that there isn't any resolution to a single storyline in this season. Everything is left up in the air. So if you're a fan of loose ends and cliffhangers, this is the show for you. We would predict that season 2, however, which is already confirmed, will probably be it for 1923. They'll bring all of these storylines home and call it a day. I mean, Sheridan has like 9 other shows in production, and his writing is painfully starting to reflect that. If he isn't filling out scripts with, "Then they lunged at each other lustfully and banged good," then he's just throwing in random lines that sound deep on their own, but just come out weird in the flow of dialogue. Plus, this is the first Yellowstone-based show that really felt unbelievable. If the show was being presented as a retelling by some ancestor far down the line, where the exploits of those Duttons who came before them have become wildly exaggerated, it would make sense. But I haven't ever heard of this show being presented in that way. Spencer Dutton is a great example of a Dutton whose badassness is just going way over the top for a show that's supposed to be a realistic, believable drama. In a matter of months, he shoots dead a charging lion, he fights off a leopard with his bare hands, he pounds gallons of whiskey, he runs off with some English socialite, they get run off the road by an elephant, they get trapped in a tree as a pride of lions tries to eat them, they get shipwrecked and hunted by sharks, saved by a passing boat whose captain marries them and gives them his wife's ring because the Duttons are just so cool. He ends up in a duel with the son of the Earl of Sussex and throws him overboard. It's just too much. Also, his relationship with Alex is more weird than charming most of the time. Several hours after getting engaged, he pretty much asks her if she's ever going to shut up, and he proceeds to ask her this a few times, each time making it clear that he's not joking. Now, so far this all kind of sounds pretty negative, but we more so just wanted to get those points out of the way. Overall, the show is decent. The story being set up could end up being very entertaining to watch, but this first season spent way too long getting the wheels in motion, at least for Spencer's return to Montana. Per usual, the settings and production value and all that were great. The acting was decent, most everyone pulled their weight in this regard, but the only possible standout was Jerome Flynn as Banner. Also, it's kind of funny that Harrison Ford managed to snag a role where he gets to lay in a bed and walk around with a cane for most of it. He was looking his age in the early episodes trying to mount and ride a horse. There's some decent action peppered throughout the show, enough to keep you engaged even if many of the sequences were unbelievable. And we think that this period of time has some interesting aspects to offer the story. We'd say that if you're a Yellowstone fan, you'll get through this show just fine. And in the end, we think that 1923 will have earned a place as a story worth telling in the history of the Yellowstone Ranch and the Dutton family. Did you end up giving 1923 a chance? If so, did you think differently about the show than we did? Did they spend too many episodes on Spencer and Alex's journey back from Africa? Let us know in the comments. Remember to like the video if you liked it, and subscribe to the channel for reviews of other current shows and movies, as well as for quick, rapid-fire reviews like this one. Thank you for joining us today, and we'll catch you on the next one.